You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Radio Show, only on Financial News and Talk. Now live in studio, your host, local and national real estate expert and consumer advocate, Ron Siegel.
And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take how your family or business can benefit from current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day. We're a very focused show. We only chat about items that affect the roof over your head, your bank account, and anything I feel would benefit you. But before we get into our intriguing content today, please join me in welcoming our featured guest and repeat offender on Ron Siegel Radio.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Mark Schneider. Protect our kids. Welcome.
It's so good to be here, Ron. Thanks for having me on the program.
Glad to have you with us. And at least I know you're of the generation. You'll at least remember that song.
I do indeed. It brings back memories.
It brings back memories. Yeah. So we all have some good, fun memories of that. Let me remind you, if you ever have any home or finance related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you. And you can reach out to me directly, 800-306-1990. 800-306-1990 or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are operators standing by.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan, a plan to save you money, I personally work with you, even if you don't have any needs today. Save this number in your phone for future reference, 800-306-1990. 800-306-1990. And boy, we got a lot to celebrate today. We're gonna bury the lead here, Josh. So we're gonna start off National Bourbon Day. I used to be a bourbon drinker. That was my college days. Jack Daniels, just plain Jack Daniels, right out of the bottle. Found that it worked much better. It solved met our goal, as opposed to at my size, it was either a lot of beer or a pint of Jack. You make the decision. So maybe that's why I'm a vodka drinker now. But today's National Bourbon Day. What's your favorite bourbon? And having beaten anorexia, I do look at it. Today's also Strawberry Shortcake Day. If I just sat here, strawberry shortcake and bourbon. I don't know if those go together, but you know something, we can put a candle in the strawberry shortcake because today is the Army's birthday, and we do appreciate all of the men and women who serve in our armed forces. Army birthday, June 14th, 1775. And you know, we are a proud sponsor of the Homes for Heroes. Proud sponsor of the Homes for Heroes program. We give a discount for every hero that we're able to help. Now, we expanded a little bit. It's not just for Army. It's for any veteran, active, reserve, retired, veteran, police, fire, nurses, teachers, all of them. They all get a discount right on their closing statement, on their loan statements from Ron Siegel Radio. Got to close the loan with us. We give you the discount. And having, you know, there's no way we could go on without saying today's also National Flag Day. Now, I'm not going to say it because it goes without saying. Well, maybe I will. I'm a little odd. So I like the flag exactly as it is. So I have some friends of mine that have said, but Ron, what about putting the thin blue line down the flag? No. You can have a flag that honors our police and first responders, but I don't like the idea. If I say that I can desecrate the flag for my purposes or things that I support, wouldn't I be hypocritical to say that you can't desecrate the flag for something that I don't support? Leave it just the way it is. Create something different and unique for other causes. Just maybe I'm old-fashioned, but that's just my personal opinion. Hey, let's look at the markets today. Dow Jones Industrial Average once again down 204 points. S&P 500 down 13 after a horrible day yesterday. The NASDAQ up just a little bit. Oil is going up again, maybe still $1.43 a barrel. I've given you a formula on how to figure out what that translates into gasoline prices, but let's just throw it out there. I'll give you the numbers today as I do on many days when we're looking at the markets. The national average gallon of gasoline, $5.01, actually $5.02 a gallon. If I was in Nevada, we could be paying $5.67 a gallon. Josh, you probably think that's a lot, but hey, here in Southern California, it's $6.44, or the state of California, $6.44 a gallon. Jody's out there at $5.35, and maybe we'll all go visit Lori and get gasoline with Lori at $4.56 a gallon. She's in America. Here in California, we're a little different. Louisiana, $4.56 is what our tremendous underwriter Lori is paying per gallon of gasoline. Amazing what's going on, and the president's team is still coming out there and saying everything is going to be all right. We're doing great. You just don't understand that your money isn't going as far as it used to, that interest rates on home loans are up significantly, that gas prices are putting people out of business, that you can't get baby formula. Those are all good things, I guess, according to the administration. I just throw that out there. Elections have consequences. I can't imagine, now that we've got gasoline prices here in California at $6.44. Now, I've seen some places at over $7 a gallon. I haven't been there, but I've seen some over $7 a gallon of gasoline. And just 2 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, we had the opportunity to get rid of Gavin Newsom and maybe get a reversal on the high level of taxes we have. Now, look at that. National average is 501. We do a lot of refining here in California. Obviously, we've had some major ports here. We've got tankers coming in here, and we're higher than the oil-producing state of Hawaii. Oh, no, they don't produce oil in Hawaii or gasoline. Think about that. So we get gasoline or oil that comes into California at whatever it is, $121 a barrel, $122 a barrel. We refine it here, which you take the cost of a barrel of gasoline times 1.5 to get the refined cost. Multiply times 1.5. That gets you the refined cost. And it's still cheaper to put it back on another ship and send it to Hawaii, and they get to pay less for gasoline there. $5.54 a gallon, 90 cents a gallon cheaper than we pay here after they put it on a ship and go back there. What do you think the difference is? Oh, no, they tell you it's not taxes. You're right. It's not all taxes. Because the state, we took away the authority of the state to tax people. Now they call it fees. So it's actually taxes and fees at another 25% to the cost of a gallon of gasoline for us here in the formerly Golden State. Look at that. It's almost working exact perfect. $5.02 a gallon national, add 25%. That would be $1.25. And that brings us to $6.26, and we're at $6.44. So it's just about right there. Think about some of these issues. But elections have consequences. You're going to have that opportunity coming up to see if you like this. Now, as we get closer to the elections, we're going to have more and more recession. The Federal Reserve is going to meet. They're meeting today. There's meeting as we speak. Tomorrow, they're going to tell us that they're probably going to raise rates, not 50 basis points, but 75 basis points on the discount rate, 75 basis points. What does that do to your home loans? Well, it doesn't really directly affect home loans, but it does if you have a home equity line of credit that directly affects that. So watch what's going on there. If it's good, you may have some credit cards that it could affect if they're adjustable rate. If you're thinking about doing some home improvements, forget about it. There's going to be a lot of issues. Heck, can't even get food right now. So think about, but the president's doing a great job. I saw that on the Sunday shows just recently. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate, current events, and the financial markets. When we come back, is the housing market correcting? We'll talk about it. We got now buy now, pay later versus credit cards. Which should you use? Oh, I just hit the wrong screen right there. We're going to talk about protecting our kids. How do we do that? All of that. We're going to chat about it all today. You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio, your home and mortgage connection.
Do you know a homeowner experiencing divorce? Do you know a real estate reference and the divorce decree could cost tens of thousands of dollars? A certified divorce mortgage planning and real estate report could save you thousands of dollars, and it's free from your local certified divorce lending professional. Reach out to Ron today. RonIsMyLender.com. Again, RonIsMyLender.com. Licensed under NMLS 217037, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Mortgage Minute today being brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. When you're ready for that next home loan, Geneva, they've got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. S&P 500 now down 14.91. The 10-year Treasury up 8 basis points. It was down earlier in the day. 3.448 is where we're at on that 10-year Treasury. Mortgage-backed securities, the bond is down 14 basis points. What does that tell us? Well, interest rates are up, and regardless of what you hear anywhere, OBMMI provides the most comprehensive, accurate, timely, and interactive analysis of pricing ever conducted in the mortgage industry, calculated from actual lock rates with consumers across 35% of all mortgage transactions nationwide. Where were the loans locked at yesterday? 5.943. Yeah, jumbo 5.297, 30-year FHA loan 5.617. Best loan on the market. It's gotten a lot more expensive though. It's for our veterans, 5.458, and the USDA loan for the rural areas 5.504. And all that information, well, the OBMMI information, most people don't know where to find it, but we do. Why is all of this happening? Well, Producer Price Index, which measures wholesale inflation, was reported for the month of May. The headline PPI figure was up 0.8, matching the estimates. On a year-over-year basis, PPI decreased by 0.1% from 10.9 to 10.8, lower than expectations of that 10.9. Core PPI, for those people that don't need food and don't need energy, that increased by 0.5%, which is below the 0.6% estimate. Year-over-year, core PPI decreased by 0.3% from 8.6 to 8.33, lower than expectations. But think about that. That's on the producer level. So when it gets to the consumer, unless the companies have room to absorb some of it, which the president says no one's doing because they just want more money. Does anybody believe that? Oh,
it is what it is.
Yeah. I don't know what world is he in? I just don't know. But here's the issue that we're listening to or looking at or watching right now. Nick Tiriamos, reporter for the Wall Street Journal, apparently got a little bit of inside information, not abnormal. We've seen this happen for years and years. So what happens is the Federal Reserve doesn't like to spook the market. So for a long time, both Alan Greenspan and Ben Bernanke would just hint to John Hilsenrath of the Wall Street Journal of what they might do in the upcoming days, just so the market didn't get spooked. Well, yesterday, Nick Tiriamos, he came out with a report saying that the Fed is likely to consider a 75 basis point or 0.75 percentage point rate rise this week. And then he went on CNBC an hour later and did not say it was his own personal opinion. 1 + 1 = Yeah, I wonder what that tells us. So I think we may see that 75 basis point hike tomorrow. And that's why we're watching. Now, maybe the Federal Reserve will finally get off their backside and do what they should have a year ago and try and make sure that we get this inflation in check. Not going to be happy. It's not going to be pleasant. We're going to be in recession. I've told you that. We're probably not in one right now. We had a negative quarter last quarter. This quarter, they're still looking at maybe having some positivity, but we're heading to a recession. Just throw that out there for you. You heard it. I've been telling you that for 8 months now, 9 months, well before it's been popular to say. And thankfully, Josh actually could go back in the archives and grab the clips of where we first started saying recession is on the way. We put all of our shows right there, ronsiegelradio.com, first tab, radio archives. Got about 2,000 shows in there right now, maybe a little bit more than that. That's the Mortgage Minute, brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial when you're ready for that next home loan. Geneva's got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. On a happier note, maybe, Mark Schneider's with us. Glad to have you with us. Protecting our kids. Mark, this is a weird world we're in. Welcome.
It's getting weirder.
It's getting weirder. You know, about right after the Uvalde incident, I came on radio and I said that our government doesn't want to protect our kids. And I said that my reasoning is we have these issues of every time there's a shooting, we want to get gun control laws and we want to ban assault weapons, but we don't want to put in bigger fences or armed guards to protect the kids. And I don't know if this is where you guys get involved. I know you deal with a lot with protecting the kids and a lot of different issues, but does this sound logical at least? Am I being irrational?
I don't think you're being irrational at all. And aside from not protecting our kids physically, from harm in a place where they should be able to expect that they're going to be safe and protected. On a deeper level, Ron, we're not protecting our kids. In fact, we're actually doing them harm intellectually and spiritually, which is the focus of Protect Our Kids.
Yeah, I saw a story this morning that there was a kindergarten class in New York that today is actually their first day of going to instruction without masks.
Isn't that amazing?
They couldn't see. I mean, I have a grandson. He's 13 months, 14 months, 15 months, something along those lines. And I watch his mom, and she's a school teacher, and she enunciates very, very plainly so he can watch her mouth when she's enunciating letters, right? And think about it, all the time that these kids couldn't watch their teacher speaking like that.
And what message does that send to a young child? You've got to be, your identity is masked, literally and figuratively.
Sure.
And actually, and we all know from the medical data that the risk to small children from this virus is very, very small. There's no scientific reason to have these kids masked up.
Amazing. And the other issue that I've been talking about for years, in fact, I had a pastor from the Anaheim Police Department come on, and he was doing a course in his church at talking about the concept that we're pushing things at kids that they're not mentally and emotionally ready to handle.
That's right. It's all part of the woke agenda that's happening throughout our country. And to be woke means to be attuned and alert to different layers of oppression in society. And this used to be the province of the universities. We've known that for decades now. In fact, in 1989, Alan Bloom, a famous University of Chicago professor, wrote that if there's anything a university today can be sure of, it's that every incoming freshman believes or says he believes the truth is relative. Well, Ron, that was almost 35 years ago. And we've seen successive generations of kids come through the public schools now with a different ideology than you and I were born with and grew up with.
You know, it's a shame that we see that right now. And, I look at it and say, my grandkids, I only have one right now, but my grandkids, would I want them to even go to a university?
It's a dilemma that every parent with means has to face. And there's a very strong argument that they would be better off actually not going to the university. Now, there are exceptions like in STEM training, science, technology, engineering, and math. But if you're going for something other than that, you're taking a great risk.
But what about the indoctrination? I mean, I have a niece that's at UCI. And, I just read what's going on at UCI. I listen to what they talk to. I have a friend who's had a son at Cal State Fullerton. And they don't want the professors don't want reality. They want you to answer the questions in their woke mentality.
That's part of wokeism, that there's no toleration for opposing views. There's no toleration for critical thinking. If you want to be part of the club, you have to go with the party line, and that's to believe in identity politics. But at least someone who's in the university, they're a little older now, ostensibly, they're over 18 years old, and their minds are somewhat formed, so they can think through what they're being accosted with. A grade schooler, Ron, can't do that. They don't have the tools to do that.
So do you see, being that you're on the front lines of this, I've been mentioning, especially during the pandemic, that I think that there's going to be a bigger move to private schooling.
It's already started.
Is it?
And yes, and that is an encouraging sign. Parents are starting to take notice of what's going on throughout the school systems in the country. In fact, the homeschooling community has grown exponentially in the last couple of years. Millions of new children have grown the homeschooling community, and private schools are seeing a huge increase in numbers. It's not enough to make a difference here in California. At a maximum, about 12% of the nation's 6.2 million school-age children are either in a homeschool or private school community. That leaves, 87+ % of our children who are captive to the public schools.
So 12% of the nation, or 12% of the states?
The state in California.
The question, though, that I see, because I've watched now through the pandemic, are parents qualified to be teachers, for the homeschooling process?
You would be surprised, but the answer, by all records and data that we have, is absolutely yes.
Wow.
Because parents, first of all, to make that decision, they have to be totally committed to it, and most are. And there are so many resources available today. There is a huge network. It's a professional network. It's a whole industry built around helping homeschooling parents to do this job. And so when they initially get into it, yes, they're justifiably nervous. But after a year or so, they realize, I can do this. And they do it. In fact, many universities across the country, including some of the Ivy Leagues, have special programs specifically to recruit homeschoolers because they do so well in higher education and on standardized tests.
Wow. I'm going to talk more about the protecting our kids when we come back. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. We've also got, is the housing market correcting, and buy now, pay later versus credit cards? What should you do? All that and more. You can reach me anytime. Off air number 800-306-1990. 800-306-1990 or RonSiegelRadio.com. Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, shame on you. But the replay is available. Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Do you know a homeowner experiencing divorce? Do you know a real estate reference and the divorce decree could cost tens of thousands of dollars? A certified divorce mortgage planning and real estate report could save you thousands of dollars, and it's free from your local certified divorce lending professional. Reach out to Ron today. RonIsMyLender.com. Again, RonIsMyLender.com. Licensed under NMLS 217037, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 1990. The real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by the area trusted real estate professionals of Ron Siegel Radio. Visit rsrhomescout.com, rsrhomescout.com. Is the housing market correcting? If you're following the news, all the headlines about conditions in the current housing market may leave you with more questions than answers. Is the boom over? Is the market crashing or correcting? Here's what you need to know. The housing market is moderating compared to the last 2 years. But what everyone needs to remember is that the past 2 years were record-breaking in nearly every way. Record low mortgage rates, millennials reaching peak home buying years led to an influx of buyer demand. At the same time, there were not enough homes available to purchase thanks to many years of underbuilding and sellers who held off on listing their homes due to the health crisis. This combination led to record high demand, record low supply, and that wasn't going to be sustainable for the long term. The latest data shows early signs of a shift back to the market pace seen in years leading up to the pandemic. Not a crash nor a correction. As Realtor.com says, quote, the housing market is at a turning point. We're starting to see signs of a new direction, unquote. Home showings then and now, the showing time, showing index, tracks the traffic of home showings according to agents and brokers. It's a good indication of the buyer demand. If you're watching us on ronsiegelradio.tv, any of our social channels, the ABC News and Talk AM 1490 video feed, you're seeing a graph showing skyrocketed the last 2 years. The 2019 numbers give a good baseline of pre-pandemic demand. As the graph indicates, home showings skyrocketed during the pandemic. That's in blue if you're watching us. And while current buyer demand has begun to moderate slightly based on the latest data, showings are still above 2019 levels. And since 2019 was such a strong year for the housing market, this helps show that the market is not crashing. It's just a turning point that's moving toward more pre-pandemic limits. Existing home sales then and now. Headlines are also talking about how existing home sales are declining, but perspective matters. Here's a look at existing home sales going all the way back to 2019 using data from the National Association of Realtors. And we've got another graph right there. Again, a similar story is emerging. The pre-pandemic low numbers shown in blue beat the more typical year of 2019 home sales shown in gray. And according to the latest projections for 2022 shown in green, the market is on pace to close this year with more home sales than 2019 as well. It's important to compare today, not to the abnormal pandemic years, but to the most recent normal year to show the current housing market is still strong. First American sums it up like this, quote, today's housing market looks a lot like the 2019 housing market, which was the strongest housing market in a decade at the time, unquote. Bottom line, if recent headlines are generating any concerns, look at a more typical year for perspective. The current market is not a crash or a correction. It's just a turning point, more typical pre-pandemic levels. If you have any questions about this, give me a call. And hey, just remember, I know interest rates are rising dramatically. We put together a couple of different scenarios for you. Now, they were done last week, so they're outdated. But take a look at rsrpaymentassist.com, rsrpaymentassist.com, and you can actually see right there a scenario where we can get payment assistance. We've also did rsrpaymentassist1.com, the numeral 1, rsrpaymentassist2, the numeral 2.com. So those are all different scenarios of how maybe you can drop those interest rates down a little bit to try and help you get a new home. That's the real-time real estate segment, again, brought to you by the area trusted real estate professionals of Ron Siegel Radio. Visit rsrhomescout.com, rsrhomescout.com. Find that dream home. And if you know of any friends, family, or coworkers looking to buy, sell, or borrow on real estate, ask them to give me a call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Continue our conversation this morning. Mark Schneider is with us. Protect our kids. Mark, I'm going to say that I'm thankful if there's people like you out doing what you're doing. And I must admit that I'm pretty thankful that I don't have any kids in school right now. This would be a challenging time to have have kids out there if you're a more traditional family?
There's never been a time, unfortunately, in history, Ron, that we're facing today. I mean, parents have to be front and center in minding the store of their kids' minds and emotions, because it is a full-on assault, and a very insidious one that's going on in the public schools. And unfortunately, it's starting in kindergarten that the kids are being indoctrinated into believe in concepts of gender identity that they have no intellectual or emotional tools to combat or even considered, and yet they're being taught this by authority figures starting in kindergarten all the way through 12th grade.
It's amazing when you think about this, because you had mentioned about some of the STEM schools being maybe the way to go, but when you have I don't know, what was a professor, a teacher recently that said men can have babies?
Yeah, well, that's right. In fact, I remember when Dennis Prager was on the Bill Maher show a couple of years ago, and they were talking about leftist ideals. And he said, well, one problem with leftism is that they think that men can have babies. And they all laughed at him, including Bill Maher. Well, no one's laughing at him now, because in California, we have the Menstrual Equity Act, which means the tampon and menstrual pad dispensers are being installed in boys' bathrooms in the public school system, including in the Santa Ana Unified School District. This is a law in California. It's being implemented now.
Isn't that amazing when you think about that? And you can only see anybody with at least a half a brain. You don't even need a whole brain. Realizes how bad this is going to, what the ramifications are going to be. Right? When they first started talking about, if you identify as a male or as a female, you can go into the girls' locker rooms. And I made the comment, tongue in cheek, that when I was in high school, we would do anything to be able to do that. Right? I mean, that was just, male, female things. I mean, the girls didn't want to get thrown in the guys' locker room, and the guys certainly were more than happy to get thrown in the girls' locker room. And now you just have to walk in, right? I mean, that's just stupid.
That's right. Yeah, it's really an attack on the concept of truth itself and the whole Judeo-Christian worldview of which America was built on. All its founding principles, the nuclear family, private property, equity under law, equal protection under law, are all being challenged by this, what POK calls the triple threat: sex and gender theory, critical race theory, and social and emotional learning. And it's forcing children to separate their biology from their sexual or gender identity. And that is a formula for disaster if left unchallenged in the future.
So the issue now, I was pretty involved with my kids. I never had any issues. I was and am a firm believer in applied psychology. I don't feel there's a problem with that. Obviously I never did anything to hurt my kids, but I felt that it was my job to be their parent. And if I could be a friend later, that would be great. But it was to be a parent. And, with parents having to work so hard now just to try and, pay for gas, keep food and milk on the table, is it going to be more of a challenge to try and to do our job as parents, in this environment of watching what's going on at school as well?
I think parents have to ask themselves, if you do have children at home, what is the more important to you? A lucrative financial future, comfort materialism, or the safety and well-being of your children? And so there's no question, Ron, that many parents will have to make sacrifices, financial sacrifices, to be able to protect their kids long term. Fortunately, there are many new models of private schools going up, which is lowering the cost curve of private education. In California, unfortunately, the private school tuition in elementary school is around $12,000 a year. By the time you get into high school, it's pushing $19,000, which is unaffordable. But now we're seeing new models of private schooling going in where that cost curve is going down to $3,000 to $5,000 a year, which for most families in California is affordable. So options are coming.
$3,000 to $5,000 a year. That basically cut your Starbucks budget.
That's right.
Right. And it's going to be a lot better for your kids. Now, I must admit, and not that I want to pat myself on the back, my wife and I made the decision that we would forego that financial issues. I would work, she would stay home.
Yes.
And there's a lot of places right now that makes a lot of sense if you can do that. Have one or going to the Eastern model, right? The extended family, where grandparents are taking more of an active role in raising kids.
That's part of the homeschooling model as well, where the extended family gets together and friends and neighbors, and they group their talents and resources, and they decide to cooperatively train the children in education, and they're doing it, proving that they're doing it very, very successfully.
We don't hear too much about that, though.
You have to look into it, but you don't have to look far, Ron. In fact, the homeschooling community has conventions all over the country. California, during COVID, of course, it was shut down. But there's 2 conventions for homeschoolers, one in Northern California and one in Southern California, that happen every year. And there are thousands of people who attend these.
Great information. I think that's the way it's going to go more and more. And it's a shame because we're spending a lot of money on the schooling and public schooling, and it should be a little bit more representative of what, maybe you just need to be able to go to the school that fits your family lifestyle better. I've been a big believer in the voucher system forever, but that's a whole different story. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. More with Mark Schneider when we come back. Protect our kids. And we've got a Your Credit Matters, buy now, pay later versus credit cards. Which should you use? All that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio, your home and mortgage connection.
Do you know a homeowner experiencing divorce? Do you know a real estate reference and the divorce decree could cost tens of thousands of dollars? A certified divorce mortgage planning and real estate report could save you thousands of dollars, and it's free from your local certified divorce lending professional. Reach out to Ron today. RonIsMyLender.com. Again, RonIsMyLender.com. Licensed under NMLS 217037, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime. Is at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Your Credit Matters segment today being brought to you by CreditSanitizer.com. Oh, excuse me. You have a credit report. It is wrong. What are you doing about it? Buy now, pay later. BNPL financing has exploded in popularity over the past few years. Shoppers have embraced the option to split purchases into multiple payments. Even traditional credit card issuers have started offering installment payments as an option. Choosing between BNPL and a credit card can be a tough decision, especially since both have appealing features. Here are a few things to consider. Buy now, pay later, pros and cons. Instead of paying for purchases in full when you check out, buy now, pay later allows you to break your purchase amount into short installment plan. First payment is typically due the day of your purchase, and the remaining payments are spread over several weeks. Usually there's no credit check, and the application process is relatively quick and easy. You get a predictable short payment plan. In many instances, there's no interest. Might be changing on that part. Since your purchase is broken up into just a few payments with BNPL, your installments may be higher. For instance, a $1,000 purchase with 4 biweekly payments is $250 every 2 weeks or $500 for 2 months. It's important to be sure you can afford the payments before committing. Note, if you don't make your payment on time or fail to pay off your balance before the interest-free period ends, you could get hit with big late fees and interest charges. One of the downsides of BNPL is that it offers fewer consumer protections, like the ability to dispute a transaction. The industry is relatively new and is not regulated, so payment terms aren't standard across the industry. You have to carefully read the terms of each provider to understand pricing, interest, repayment, etc. Keep in mind that BNPL providers may report to credit bureaus, so your account history can impact your FICO scores. Initial findings from a recent FICO study reveal that while the change was small, on average, people tend to lose a few points when newly opening a BNPL account reported as installment loans are included in credit data. The impact might be more pronounced if you have fewer than 4 accounts on your credit file or shorter than 3 years of credit history. BNPL compared to credit cards. Credit card gives you more time to pay and more places for using your card. Using a rewards credit card allows you to earn rewards that you can accumulate and redeem for flights, hotel stays, cash in your bank account, more depending on your credit card's reward program. Some cards offer additional perks like rental car coverage, extended warranty, purchase protection, and trip cancellation insurance. Rather than requiring a set monthly payment, credit cards offer the flexibility to make minimum payments towards your balance. However, unless you're under a 0% APR promotion, you'll be charged interest anytime you carry your balance from month to month. Interest rates vary, and your exact interest rate could be high depending on your credit risk and the card you choose. Opening a new credit card isn't as simple as taking out a BNPL loan. You have to complete an application, go through a credit check, which could slightly impact your FICO scores because of the associated inquiry posted on your credit report. Many credit card issuers can approve your application right away, but you may have to wait for your card to arrive in the mail before you can use it. BNPL has become so popular, several credit card issuers now offer installment financing for select purchases. Which option should you choose? Both have their advantages and disadvantages. If you want the full report, give me a call, 800-306-1990. As a certified divorce lending professional, we talk about this all the time. How do you get rid of some of these charges and maybe stay within your means? And that's the Your Credit Matters segment brought to you by CreditSanitizer.com. Part of the problem here goes back to our topic of the day, protect our kids. Mark Schneider is with us. Mark, I don't know about you. When I was in school, I went locally here to Loera High School. And when I was in high school, back in the Stone Age, we actually had checkbooks then. And we had a course, I think it was called Home Economics. And we actually learned about mortgages and paying bills and credit cards and utilities. Do they do any of that stuff anymore now?
I don't think they do. In fact, Ron, my wife majored in college in home economics, where she taught middle school for 20 years. Home economics, I don't think it's offered at all anymore, which is a shame.
Do you think well, I guess, do you have enough control when you're in the homeschool environment to bring that in?
Absolutely. You have total control. And there are certain standards that each state has for homeschoolers. So basic courses, but those are pretty safe, things like math, science, certain math classes that you have to take. But other than that, you are totally free to teach the subjects that should be taught to children, to make them literate, to make them responsible citizens.
There's the whole idea right there, responsible citizens. Right. So when my dad was alive, when I was in school, I had any option of taking any course I wanted to take as long as my dad approved it. And one of them happened to be that he said, if you're going to live in Southern California, you should be taking Spanish every year. Right. I mean, it's just we have a huge Spanish speaking population. So maybe you have that option.
That is one of the requirements.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. You have to take a foreign language.
Okay. Now, what I'm wondering is, yesterday we had, what's her? Shelby Stewart was on with us. She helps get kids into college with their applications and their essays and whatnot. Chris Bissonette was here helping them get the financing done. But there was a new term that I had never heard, and I wonder how that's going to affect with some of the programs you're talking about. It's called rigor of curriculum.
Well, and this is I'm not familiar with that particular term, but if you just look at the words, how rigorous were the subjects that you taught and how well did you do them? And all those things do apply to homeschoolers as well. But if you're in part of the homeschooling community, you can take advanced placement courses. You can one of the benefits, Ron, actually, is that while you're in high school as a homeschooler, you can go to the local community college. So our son did that. He got college credits while he was in high school. So by the time he applied for college, he had a full raft of AP courses and college courses. So he had already proven that he could do very well. And he got in both Berkeley and UCLA.
Wow.
As a homeschooler.
So where did he end up going?
He went to UCLA. He wanted to stay local.
I could understand staying local. I don't know about UCLA. I'm a USC fan, but that's a whole different subject. I do harass UCLA people when they come on the show all the time. But the bottom line is, it still just goes back to the same thing as our topic, is we've got to get back to that point of looking after the kids. They shouldn't they shouldn't have to worry about we as parents shouldn't have to worry about what they're being taught.
That's right.
Right. And you start looking at what the government is doing. I was glad to see Virginia, where they actually took back the parents' authority.
That started a sort of a revolution across the country. Terry McAuliffe, who was the incumbent, he was expected to win easily in Virginia until he made the statements, parents should leave education to the professionals. And this guy with no experience, Youngkin, he campaigned on parental rights and he won. And that started a revolution.
Well, I've said many, many times, don't get in the way of Mama Bear.
That's right.
Right.
They're very powerful.
Go and tell Mama Bear that leave this to the professionals, in essence saying you're not.
And
might cause a problem.
That's exactly what they did in school boards across the country, including Loudoun County, Virginia, which was the subject of nightly news for months and months, which is a very positive thing. And it needs to continue, Ron.
Are you seeing that in California? I mean, our school board out here is so strong.
California is a very tough neighborhood politically. I mean, we have a supermajority of leftists in our state legislature, including on most school boards, but it is starting to happen. In fact, 3 school board members in the city of San Francisco were booted out in a recall election because they were promoting too much wokeism in the city. If it can happen in San Francisco, it can happen anywhere, but parents need to get involved.
Well, that's the whole thing, is you have to stop saying, and a lot of our problem in the country is that we all look at our representatives and say, my representative is great, but yours isn't. Right? And I don't get to vote for yours, so we end up with status quo.
Yeah.
And you look at exactly what you're saying. I mean, when they were starting up in San Francisco saying that we wanted to get rid of Lincoln Elementary School.
They did.
Right? I mean, that was one of the big issues.
That was one of the big issues.
Changing school names instead of maybe the school curriculum. But the idea here is we need to get the parents have to stand up and say, you know something, I'm not going to watch a January 6th committee meeting and I'm going to go to a school board meeting.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's no better use of your time, if you have children in the public education system, to get actively involved in your school education. If you can't afford to pull them out for a private school or homeschool them, at least know who their teachers are, who the principal is, what they're being taught. If you don't want them taught being some of these woke ideologies, you can opt them out of some of these courses, not all of them. And these are things that parents should need to avail themselves
That's
of.
the first I've heard of that, though, Mark.
Yes.
That you can opt them out of
the radical sex ed. You can opt them out of that. In fact, at our website, protectourkidsnow.org, we have the forms to be able to do that. So you can go to the menu and just download those and fill them out and send them in. I
think that's important because I mean, I look at it and say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 graders, they should be out there learning sandbox, not learning about birds and bees.
You would think, wouldn't you?
Right? I mean, they're too young to process these things. They shouldn't be learning about what's woke and what's not woke, or that black is not good or white is good or black is good, vice versa. We're all humans. That's what we want to learn. Isn't that what we want to teach our kids instead of teaching them segregation?
They're one of the very popular coloring books. It's called Who Are You? And this is meant for pre-K and 5-year-olds. And you open the book up and it shows a picture of a baby in a crib. And the caption says, parents make a guess about their child's gender. Essentially, by looking at their body parts, they make a guess. Now, what does that communicate to the fragile mind of a young child? Is this what we should be teaching in grade school?
Wow, it's challenging. I look around and see some of the folks that I know and like, and they've got a challenge on their hands as to what they're going to do with their kids. And as a grandparent, I don't get a big vote in my grandchild's, but you make your voice heard.
That's right. Yeah, we encourage parents, if you've got some time on your hands, to actually run for school board. I mean, this is probably the best time to be politically involved on this issue, because at no other time in American history have parents been better educated on what's happening in the public schools. So you would probably have a good shot of getting a position on a school board seat.
So I know we're out of time, but I want to ask you one quick question. Hopefully you have a quick answer for me. Do the local school boards have much authority?
Total authority.
Do they really? Because they say they don't.
There's the Orange County Board of Education, and they actually have very little authority of what happens in the individual school districts. It's the local school boards that decide and drive what's happening in their school districts. Now, there are state laws that they have to comport with, and they have to do that by law. But aside from those state laws, they have total authority of what happens in those schools.
Another reason why it's more important to get involved locally. You're not going to affect a whole lot that goes on in Washington, D.C., but you might in your city and maybe even more local, your child's education. Great information, Mark. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you coming in and sharing with us and keeping us updated on what's going on. And as always, I ask, hey, Josh, can you put that website on there? It's protectourkids.org.
Protectourkidsnow.org.
Protectourkidsnow.org. I missed the now. Protectourkidsnow.org. It'll take a second to get that. While Josh is doing that, I'll set that first radio preset button to come back and join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to Josh and Sean who are engineering us today. And of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. And remember, make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.